Hi, welcome to a new video, and in this one we're going to have a look at the April release candidate for RFactor 2. So we've got quite a lot going on in this one. The first thing they say is the sound engine. This is the big one. An entirely new sound engine has been developed for the simulation, and in the release candidate we encourage you to check out how this behaves with our current content selection. It does note that the sound engine is a global update, so you should hear improvements immediately. However, they will then deploy specific updates to cars going forward. I've got to be perfectly honest with you, I've not really noticed any difference running various cars through the release candidate. I honestly haven't. In fact, if anything, the only change that, or something I'm noticing now that I don't recall noticing in the past, is the tyre squeals a bit more annoying. And I was testing out the Dallara Indy car at a wet Daytona International, and being honest, it had hideous tyre squeal for a car running wets on a very wet racetrack, so I've no idea what's going on there. But no, must confess, personally, not really noticed any big changes in the sound. There's been some physics tweaks in there, mainly around engine and oil cooling, brake cooling and shift protection. Only been applied to two cars so far, which is the Dallara and the Formula Pro. Had a play around with both of those. Yeah, the changes work. They do what they say on the tin. Not really a great deal to write home about that. And then the big update, in my opinion anyway, is the considerable rework to the wet weather. So this has changed massively how the rain falls, how it dries, how the AI manage themselves on their tyres, etc, etc. And I have to say, this one for me, yes, does look a lot better and also plays a lot better. Now, the one thing it hasn't unfortunately changed is that wet weather in RFactor 2 absolutely murders your frame rate. I mean, I've got to be honest, much as I love RFactor 2, and I do love RFactor 2, the way it drives, the force feedback, I think it's great. The one thing that I still cannot get my head around is how badly optimised visually the game engine is, because it is. RFactor 2 doesn't look like a great title. It's never going to. This shouldn't be news. I've mentioned this in plenty of videos before, but just how much of a GPU performance hog for how damn bad it looks is not good. You know, you've got stuff like Assetto Corsa, RFactor, Assetto Corsa, AMS2, hell, even the old Project Cars titles look so much better with so much less of a hit on your GPU, and that really comes into play with the wet weather. I mean, it was bad pre-release candidate. It's not really improved or been optimized in any way, shape or form for the release candidate. And I'll be honest with you, with dry weather on and a field of about 20 cars, I can comfortably hit, you know, a reasonable 60 frames per second with my 1660 Ti in RFactor 2. Busy grid, start of a race, it drops a little bit, but it manages a rough average of around about 60 frames per second. I get a good 20 frame per second hit for having wet weather on, and that's huge, and it's not the same kind of hit. You know, I can run with much better looking settings, AC, AMS2, hell, even Assetto Corsa Competizione, I can manage to get circa 60 frames per second and better looking in wet weather than I can in RFactor 2. So in terms of the improvements, yes, it looks better. The reflections on the track surface look a hell of a lot better following this update, and it certainly, from a physics point of view, behaves a lot better. It behaves really, really well. But they've not done anything, despite it looking better, to optimize how it works with your GPU. And that makes it a real struggle to actually recommend wet weather racing for a lot of people in RFactor 2. which is a real shame, because at the end of the day the physics side of it works brilliantly, but Is it doing anything physics-wise that we can't get out of ACC or AMS2 in the wet? I'm not convinced it is. Certainly not for the impact you get from a visual point of view and an overall performance point of view. So yeah, it gives with one hand, but it doesn't resolve the single biggest fundamental issue with wet weather in RFactor 2, and that's the sheer hit it has on your GPU when you're running it. So it's a title I will continue to enjoy, but being perfectly honest, predominantly in the dry until something's done about that. Other areas that I have also noticed I've had problems with since updating to the release candidate, and hopefully this will be resolved for the final issue, and that is I keep losing force feedback on my T300. It's fine when I go out on track. If I have to come back into the pits for any reason to make a change or a tweak, probably about 50% of the time I lose force feedback, and the only way to resolve it is to completely shut down RFactor 2, kick it back off, and then I'll get the force feedback back. But if I hit the pits or start a new race, 50% of the time it's a bit of a crapshoot. I will lose force feedback, so that's annoying. So the April release candidate, it brings some good stuff to the title, but in all honesty, AMS, I don't know why I keep saying that. I'm getting things mixed up. I don't know why. RFactor 2 is still a massively flawed title for everything it does so well in terms of the physics and the force feedback. You know, it's still got so many huge compromises around it. It really does. So yeah, good release candidate. Just 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's RFactor 2, isn't it, at the end of the day? So yeah, hope you found the video interesting, and if you want to see more content like this, please do subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to be notified when new content gets uploaded. Thanks very much for watching, everyone. Take care. Bye.